This is the financial audit for the 2009-2010 fiscal year. We've all been through one of these audit presentations before, so I'm not going to drag you through all of the financials and everything. Each one of them, what I would like to do though is take you over to Exhibit B, which is the performance financial statement. That'll be about 6 or 7 pages into the audit. That'll be in the upper right-hand corner that you see Exhibit B. The first column represents the school district's general fund. That's your main operation fund, construction, transportation, student events. You'll note down there at the bottom, that's the fund balance at June 30, 2010, $252,000. The year before is the second line. That was your position at June 30, 2009, $151,000. And the change in fund balance represents the $100,000. That $100,000 is a part of an issue you have going on right now, so we reserve that money for the virtual education program, whatever the title was on that. So that's why you have that rolling forward. If you'll look right in the middle of the page there, left-hand caption will say excess of revenues. That's the $100,000 again. So what we'll do, what the school district does, is they reserve that money on an annual basis until the situation's resolved. Otherwise, you would have basically the same fund balance if you take that $100,000 off of the bottom line. So you have a consistency in your fund balance available to go into each year, and we'll just reserve that again. The special revenue funds are the combination of the child nutrition fund and the building fund. Now the building fund's portion of that is $75,000, and the child nutrition fund is $5,600. You can go back to Schedule B if you want to, and that's going to be toward the back of your audit. And if you're looking at the notes and financial statements, you'll see the number, page number 15 at the bottom. And then a few pages behind that would be Schedule B-1. Schedule B-1, if you'll look at the bottom there, you'll see the assets that went forward into 2011 year, this current year. We had the building fund $75,000. It actually increased $34,000 from year 9 to year 10. And the child nutrition fund basically remained the same with $185 increase, so it held its own. Now, some of those expenditures do come out of the district general fund, like utilities and things like that, but as far as food purchases, most of that does come out of 22, the child nutrition fund. I hope you held your place on Exhibit B. Okay. On the debt service, the sinking fund, that's the third column in on the left-hand page. You'll note down there at the bottom we had $51,000 of available cash. That rolled forward into year 11. We have a change in fund balance of $11,000. That's very typical because as we go each year, you reduce the liability of the debt service fund, so a negative balance in there is not a bad thing. It means that you're servicing your debt and you need less money to continue on with it. Capital projects, we had $4,800 in there to start the year, and it remained the same. Is that still in existence this year?
We zeroed it out this year.
Okay. And then the fiduciary fund types, as you can see, that would be an insurance recovery situation, and that's a trust fund. We did have 1 penny left in there. It would be good if we could get rid of that. Use it on something. I don't know what you're going to do, but that's, or you actually could, by resolution, direct the county treasurer, your district treasurer, to transfer that money to the building fund so that it can be used for an operational purpose since the damage has been repaired. And you could actually have him move that money over and discharge that amount.
And that insurance cash fund, Sam, is that what that is?
That's the, yeah, 86, I believe. Now, if you you'll flip back to Exhibit A for just a minute. On the right-hand side there, on that first column, you'll see the fiduciary fund types. The amount that you saw over on B was just 1 cent at the bottom. In this one, it's 17,000. Okay, the difference belongs to the student activity fund. And we report the activity fund in the balance sheet because you are actually holding those assets for the students, but we don't report it on your activities because it's not the district's money, so we don't show an activity on that. Activity shows up clear back in the back on a Schedule 2. You get that on a monthly basis, so you're familiar with what your assets were at June 30 in the activity fund. On Exhibit C, this is our budget to actual. Now the effort here is to not exceed our appropriated areas. And if you look at the general fund, we had on the expenditures paid category, if you look at the total expenditures, that represents in column 1 the beginning budget for the year, that $1,373,000, and the second column represents the final budget. You can see it increased. We had to add by supplemental appropriation to the budget to reach that $1,530,000. In the third column, you only spent $1,409,000. That's good. And in each of the categories above that, you see the budget for instruction was $944,000. Third column says you only spent $823,000, and exact dollar amounts in the other function categories. So your budgeting process was good. And the same thing goes for the special revenue categories. You can see that we actually had, I think, $700 that we supplemented in the child nutrition fund right at the end of the year, and you did not exceed those function categories either. Now you're going to look over at the sinking fund, and you'll see that we did exceed the budgeted area, but that's because at the beginning of the year we only identify that we're going to need what's available to move forward. As I mentioned over there, we had $62,000 at the end of '09. So with that cash and what we needed, we only needed $51,000. As you see in the expenditure area, we only need 51 to meet our needs. The interest is on top of that, so we had cash available. So even though we spent more, we had the funding available, but we have to show the 51 because that's all we needed from the public. If that makes any sense to you. What the requirement is on the sinking fund is that we reserve 75% roughly of the next year's needs out of the cash that's available, and then whatever we need over above that we have to levy against the ad valorem of the public.